The rain should have been falling. That's what Simone thought as she watched her own funeral from the black sedan parked 3 rows back. Instead, the sun blazed down on the cemetery, making the whole scene look almost cheerful. Almost. She adjusted the dark wig and sunglasses, her hand instinctively moving to her rounded belly. 6 months pregnant with twins, and everyone down there thought she was dead. Thought both her babies were dead too. The crowd gathered around the casket was smaller than it should have been. Her mother stood near the front, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Her sister held their mother's arm for support. Her best friend Nicole stood slightly apart, arms crossed, face hard as stone. They were the only ones who knew the truth. Then she saw him. Trevor walked through the cemetery gates like he owned the place, his designer suit perfectly pressed, his shoes shined to mirror brightness. But it wasn't Trevor that made Simone's blood run cold. It was the woman on his arm. Brianna. 26 years old, wearing a black dress that was too tight and too short for a funeral. Her blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders, and she clung to Trevor's arm like she belonged there. Like she had any right to be at the funeral of the woman whose husband she'd been sleeping with for 8 months. Simone watched as gasps rippled through the small crowd. Her mother's face went white. Nicole took a step forward, but Simone's sister grabbed her arm, holding her back just like they'd planned. Trevor had the decency to look uncomfortable for about 5 seconds. Then he straightened his shoulders and walked forward, Brianna still attached to his side. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, stood near the casket with a folder in his hands. He was 62 years old and had been Simone's family lawyer since she was a child. When she'd come to him 3 months ago with her plan, he'd listened without judgment, then smiled and said, "Let's make sure he never forgets this day." Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. "Before we proceed with the burial, there are some matters from Mrs. Simone Carter's will that must be addressed immediately." Trevor's head snapped up. Simone could see the calculation in his eyes even from this distance. He was thinking about money. About the house, the cars, the joint accounts he thought he'd been so clever about draining. "As many of you know," Mr. Patterson continued, his voice carrying across the quiet cemetery, "Simone Carter died 3 days ago from complications related to her pregnancy. The twins she was carrying also did not survive." Simone's mother let out a sob. It was real grief even though she knew her daughter was alive. The grief was for the situation, for the betrayal, for having to watch her son-in-law bring his mistress to what everyone else believed was her daughter's funeral. "However," Mr. Patterson said, and something in his tone made everyone stand a little straighter, "Mrs. Carter left specific instructions for today. She requested that before anything else, we watch this video." He pulled out a tablet and turned it toward the crowd. Trevor's face went pale. The screen flickered to life and there was Simone. Alive. Very obviously pregnant. Sitting in Mr. Patterson's office with the date stamp clearly visible in the corner. 3 weeks ago. "Hello everyone," video Simone said, her voice steady and clear. "If you're watching this, then Trevor actually had the nerve to show up at my funeral. And I'm willing to bet he didn't come alone." The crowd turned to stare at Trevor. Brianna tried to step back, but Trevor's hand tightened on her arm. "I'm not dead," Simone continued. "My babies aren't dead. But my marriage is, and it has been for a while now. I just didn't know it until I found the receipts for the diamond bracelet my husband bought for his girlfriend. The same girlfriend he told was divorced. The same girlfriend he's been planning a future with while I carried his children." Brianna yanked her arm free from Trevor and stepped back, her face bright red. "Trevor," video Simone said, and even through the screen her voice carried power, "you made a mistake. You thought I was just your quiet little wife who handled the house and asked no questions. You thought I didn't notice when you started coming home late. When you stopped looking at me. When you started moving money." Trevor's face had gone from pale to gray. "See, while you were planning your new life, I was planning too. I was gathering evidence. Bank statements. Emails. Text messages. Photos of you and Brianna at restaurants where you told me you were working late. And something else you didn't know about, the fact that you've been forging my signature on financial documents for 6 months." The crowd erupted in whispers. Simone's mother sat down hard on a nearby bench. "That's fraud, Trevor. That's a crime. And I have every single document you signed with my name. Every transfer you made from our joint accounts. Every lie you told." Mr. Patterson paused the video and looked directly at Trevor. "Mr. Carter, I should inform you that criminal charges have been filed. The police are waiting outside the cemetery gates." Trevor's eyes went wide. He looked around like he was searching for an escape route. Mr. Patterson hit play again. "As for the will everyone's here to hear," video Simone said with a small smile, "there isn't much to read. Everything we had jointly is already gone. I legally transferred it all to my name 3 months ago, using the power of attorney I've always had. The house, the cars, the investments, all mine. What's left in your name, Trevor, are the debts you didn't know I knew about. And those are all yours. Brianna was backing away now, shaking her head. I'm starting over, Simone said. Somewhere you'll never find me. With my babies. Building something you can't touch. And Trevor? I hope it was worth it. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Nicole walked straight up to Trevor and smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. She's gone, Nicole said loud enough for everyone to hear. You'll never find her. You'll never see those babies. And you're going to spend the next few years explaining to judges and juries exactly what you did. 2 police officers walked through the cemetery gates. From her car, Simone watched Trevor's face crumble as the handcuffs went on. She watched Brianna hurry away, heels clicking on the pavement, pulling out her phone. She watched her mother look up at the sky and smile through her tears. Then Simone started her car and drove away from her old life forever. The funeral was over. But her new life was just beginning. Simone stood in the bathroom of her beautiful suburban home, staring at 2 pink lines. Pregnant. 12 weeks according to the test. She pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling a flutter of joy mixed with fear. She'd wanted this for so long. Wanted to give Trevor the family he said he dreamed about. But something had changed in the past few months. He was distant. Cold. Always on his phone. She walked downstairs to find Trevor in the kitchen, pouring coffee into his travel mug. He was dressed in another expensive suit, his hair perfectly styled. When had he started caring so much about his appearance? Trevor, she said softly, I need to talk to you. He didn't even look up. Can it wait? I have an early meeting. It's important. So is my meeting. He grabbed his keys from the counter. We'll talk tonight. But they wouldn't talk tonight. They hadn't really talked in months. Simone watched him leave, then looked down at the pregnancy test still clutched in her hand. She'd tell him tonight anyway. Maybe a baby would bring them back together. She spent the day planning how to announce it. Maybe a nice dinner. Candles. His favorite meal. She went to the store, bought everything she needed, and spent the afternoon cooking. At 7, she texted him, coming home soon? At 8, dinner's ready. At 9, where are you? At 10, she heard his car in the driveway. She'd kept the food warm, kept the candles lit, kept hoping. Trevor walked in and barely glanced at the table. I ate already. Client dinner ran late. Something in Simone's chest cracked. She stood up, walked to him, took his hand. Trevor, please. I have something to tell you. He pulled his hand away. I'm tired, Simone. Can we do this another time? That's when she saw it. A smudge of red on his collar. Lipstick. Not her shade. Not even close. Trevor followed her gaze and his hand went to his collar. It's nothing. One of the clients at dinner got too friendly. You know how these business dinners are. But Simone knew what her husband's lies looked like. She'd been seeing them for months without wanting to admit it. Go to bed, she said quietly. I'll clean up. He actually looked relieved. He headed upstairs without another word. Simone stood in her kitchen surrounded by the dinner she'd made with love, and she felt something inside her shift. She walked to Trevor's jacket hanging by the door. His wallet was in the inside pocket. She pulled out the receipts. Dinner at Romano's, the expensive Italian place downtown. 4-2. The date was from last week when he told her he was working late. Another receipt from a jewelry store. A diamond bracelet. $1,200. She'd never seen that bracelet. Her hands shook as she kept searching. More receipts. More lies. A hotel room charge from 2 months ago, the same weekend he'd said he had a conference in Chicago. Simone sat down at the kitchen table, receipts spread in front of her, one hand on her stomach where 2 babies she didn't even know about yet were growing. And she made a decision. She wouldn't confront him. Not yet. She would find out everything first. The next morning, Trevor left for work at 7. By 8, Simone was in his home office, his laptop password cracked using the one he'd used for everything. His mother's birthday. Men were so predictable. His email told her everything she needed to know. Brianna Mitchell. Age 26. Works at the marketing firm Trevor's company contracted with. The affair had started 8 months ago at a company conference. The emails were disgusting, full of plans for their future together, complaints about his wife who didn't understand him, promises that he'd leave soon. There was more. Emails to his accountant about separating assets. Questions about divorce law in their state. Research about custody cases. He was planning to leave her. And based on what she was reading, he planned to take everything. Simone's phone buzzed. A text from her doctor's office reminding her about her appointment tomorrow. She'd scheduled it weeks ago for a routine checkup, but now she knew she needed to go for a different reason. She spent the rest of the day copying emails, downloading files, photographing everything. She created a hidden email account and sent everything to herself. Then she cleared the browser history and made sure everything looked exactly like Trevor had left it. At the doctor's office the next day, Simone learned she was carrying twins. Twin boys. Healthy and growing. She sat in her car in the parking lot and cried. Not because she wasn't happy, she was. But because her sons would grow up without a father who loved them. Because the man she'd married had become someone she didn't know. Then she dried her eyes, started her car, and drove to the office of a private investigator a friend had once mentioned. His name was Jerome Banks, and he specialized in infidelity cases. He was a large man with kind eyes and a gentle voice that didn't match his size. Simone told him everything. Jerome listened without interrupting. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "What do you want from this investigation, Mrs. Carter?" "Everything," Simone said. "I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he sees, every lie he tells. I want to know about the money he's moving. I want evidence that will hold up in court. And I want to make sure that when this is over, he can't take my children from me." Jerome nodded slowly. "I can do that. But Mrs. Carter, I have to warn you, sometimes what we find is worse than what you already know." "I don't care," Simone said. "I need the truth." "Then you'll have it." Over the next 2 months, Jerome's reports came in regularly. Photos of Trevor and Brianna having lunch, dinner, meeting at hotels. Videos of them shopping together, Trevor buying her gifts. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts. But the worst part was the conversation Jerome's team recorded at a coffee shop. Trevor's voice, "Once the baby comes, I'll file for divorce. Claim she's unstable. Postpartum depression or something. Get primary custody." Brianna's voice, "Can you really do that?" Trevor, "With the right lawyer and the right evidence, I can do anything. She barely works, depends on me for everything. No judge would give her custody over me." Simone listened to that recording 3 times. Then she called her best friend Nicole. Nicole arrived within an hour, found Simone sitting on the floor of her bedroom, laptop open, evidence spread everywhere. "He's going to try to take my babies," Simone said. Nicole sat down next to her. "Then we make sure he can't." "How?" "He's right, I haven't worked in years. He makes all the money. He'll get the best lawyers." "No," Nicole said firmly. "You're going to get the best lawyers. You're going to protect yourself and those babies. And Trevor is going to learn that you are not someone to mess with." Simone looked at her friend. "I don't know where to start." Nicole pulled out her phone. "I do. My cousin is a family law attorney. Best in the state. She owes me a favor. And I know someone else too, someone who can help us make Trevor understand exactly what he's done." "Who?" Nicole smiled. "Let's just say I know people who specialize in making problems go away." That night, Simone Carter began planning not just her divorce, but her complete disappearance and rebirth. Attorney Rachel Montgomery sat across from Simone in her downtown office, reading through the evidence Jerome had compiled. She was 45, sharp-eyed, and known for winning impossible cases. "This is extensive," Rachel said. "But we need more. We need to prove financial misconduct, not just infidelity." "What kind of financial misconduct?" Simone asked. Rachel leaned forward. "Your husband is moving money. That much is clear from these emails. But we need to know where it's going and if he's hiding assets. We need to prove he's planning to defraud you in the divorce." "How do we do that?" "We need a forensic accountant." 3 days later, Simone sat in another office, this time with Martin Chin. No, she couldn't use Chin. Martin Foster. A forensic accountant who'd made a career out of finding hidden money. Martin spread Simone's financial documents across his desk. Bank statements, tax returns, investment portfolios. Everything Simone had access to. "Give me 2 weeks, Martin said. 2 weeks later, Simone sat in Rachel's office again, this time with Martin present. His findings made her stomach turn. "Your husband has been systematically draining your joint accounts for the past 8 months, Martin explained. "Small amounts at first, then larger transfers. The money goes to an account in the Cayman Islands under a shell corporation he created." "How much?" Simone asked. "So far? About $300,000. Simone's hands gripped the arms of her chair. $300,000. Money from her inheritance when her father died. Money from their joint savings. Money that was supposed to be for their future. There's more, Martin continued. He's been forging your signature on documents. Loan applications, refinancing papers, even transferring ownership of some assets into his name only. Rachel made a note. That's fraud. Multiple counts. Can we prove it? Simone asked. Oh yes, Martin said with a thin smile. I have handwriting analysis. I have the original documents. I have everything we need to prove your husband is a criminal. Simone felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Something harder. Something like steel. What else did you find? Martin exchanged a glance with Rachel. Your husband has been researching how to claim you're an unfit mother. He's been documenting anything he thinks could be used against you. He's even considered hiring someone to create evidence if needed. The room tilted. Simone gripped the desk. He would fake evidence? According to his emails, yes. Nicole, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, stood up. So what do we do? How do we protect her? Rachel's expression was fierce. We go on the offensive. We file for divorce first. We freeze the joint accounts. We get a restraining order if needed. We expose everything Trevor has done before he has a chance to act. But that's not enough, Simone said quietly. Everyone looked at her. If we just file for divorce, he'll fight back. He'll use his money and his lawyers. And even if I win, my children will still have him in their lives. Visiting rights. Custody battles. Years of fighting. What are you suggesting? Rachel asked carefully. Simone looked at each of them. I'm suggesting we think bigger. I'm suggesting we make it so Trevor can't fight at all. Nicole smiled slowly. I like where this is going. Over the next 2 hours they planned. Not just a divorce. Not just a court battle. Something more complete. I have some money saved, Simone said. Money Trevor doesn't know about. My grandmother left me bonds when she died. About $50,000. It's in my maiden name in an account Trevor never knew existed. That's a start, Rachel said. But to really protect yourself, you need more. You need to secure every asset you can legally claim before he knows you're coming. Martin pulled out a calculator. The house is in both names. Same with the cars, the investment accounts Trevor hasn't already drained. If we move fast, we can transfer your half to accounts only in your name. It's legal, you're entitled to half of everything. But won't Trevor notice? Nicole asked. Not if we do it right, Martin said. We can make small transfers over several weeks. Sell off stocks and bonds. Move the money to new accounts. By the time Trevor realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. Rachel nodded. And there's something else we can use. Simone, you mentioned you have power of attorney for certain accounts. Yes, from when we first got married. In case something happened to either of us. That power of attorney gives you legal authority to make financial decisions, including transferring funds. Simone understood. So I could move everything legally and he couldn't stop me. Not until he challenged it in court. And by then, the money would be secure. There's one problem, Nicole said. If Simone just disappears with the money, Trevor will hunt her down. He'll use the police, lawyers, everything. He won't stop. Simone had been thinking about this. What if I didn't just disappear? What if everyone thought I was dead? The room went silent. Explain, Rachel said. Simone's mind raced. I'm 6 months pregnant with twins. Pregnancy complications happen. Women die in childbirth. If everyone thought I died, Trevor wouldn't look for me. He'd think he won. He'd get sloppy. That's insane, Nicole said. But she didn't sound like she thought it was a bad idea. It's also potentially illegal, Rachel warned. Faking your death could be considered fraud. What if I didn't fake it alone? Simone asked. What if I had help from people Trevor wronged? People who'd be willing to help me disappear. Martin leaned back in his chair. Your husband has made enemies. In business, in his personal life. I've seen the records. He's cheated people, broken contracts, ruined reputations. So we find those people, Simone said. We offer them a chance to help bring Trevor down. And in return, they help me disappear. Rachel shook her head, but she was smiling. This is the craziest plan I've ever heard. Will it work? Simone asked. Rachel looked at Martin, at Nicole, then back at Simone. If we do it exactly right, with perfect timing and complete commitment. Yes. It might actually work. Then let's do it, Simone said. Nicole stood up. I know a doctor. Someone who'd be willing to help. Especially after I tell her what Trevor's planning. I'll start securing the finances, Martin said. Slowly. Carefully. Trevor won't know what hit him. Rachel pulled out a legal pad. And I'll start building the case for when you come back. Because Simone, when you resurface, we're going to bury him with evidence. Simone Carter looked around at her team. Her army. The people who would help her disappear and then help her rise again. One more thing, she said. The funeral. I want to see it. I want to watch Trevor face what he's done. That's dangerous, Rachel warned. I don't care, Simone said. I need to see it. I need to watch him realize he lost everything. Nicole grinned. Then we'll make sure you have the best seat in the house. The next 8 weeks passed in a blur of careful planning and calculated moves. Simone continued her normal routine with Trevor. She made his breakfast, smiled when he came home late, never mentioned the lipstick stains or the perfume that wasn't hers. She played the role of the perfect wife while secretly dismantling his entire life. Every Monday she met with Martin to review the financial transfers. He'd created a complex web of accounts, each one legally in Simone's name, each transfer carefully documented and justified. He still hasn't noticed? Simone asked during their 4th meeting. Not yet, Martin said, showing her his laptop screen. See, we're moving money from investments he barely checks. Selling off stock slowly. Converting to cash. Each transfer looks legitimate. Paying bills, buying baby supplies, normal expenses. How much have we secured? So far? 400,000. That's your half of everything plus the money you're entitled to from accounts he drained. We're being conservative, only taking what you can legally prove is yours. Simone nodded. It was enough to start over. Enough to build a new life. Meanwhile, Nicole had been working her own angle. Her contact, Dr. Patricia Hall, was a respected physician who'd had her own encounter with Trevor's business practices 3 years ago. Trevor's company had backed out of a medical equipment contract, leaving Patricia's clinic in financial trouble. She's on board, Nicole told Simone over coffee. More than on board. She's excited to help. Will she really issue a death certificate? Simone asked quietly. Not exactly. But she has connections in a hospital upstate. A place where you can go to have the baby safely, where Trevor won't think to look. After the birth, the hospital will issue certificates for a woman who matches your description. Patricia knows someone who owes her a favor. It sounded impossible. But Nicole's face was confident. What about my family? Simone asked. My mother will be devastated. We tell them the truth. Your mother, your sister. Maybe a few others you absolutely trust. They'll have to grieve publicly while knowing you're safe. Simone thought about her mother. Strong, faithful, protective. She'll do it. She hated Trevor even before I found out about the affair. Smart woman, Nicole muttered. Rachel had been building her side of the plan too. She'd filed preliminary paperwork that wouldn't be processed until after the death. Divorce papers citing fraud, abandonment, and criminal conduct. She'd also been gathering statements from people Trevor had wronged in business. I have 6 people willing to testify about Trevor's fraud, Rachel told Simone. 8 more who'll provide written statements. When this goes to court, his reputation will be destroyed. Good, Simone said. And meant it. The hardest part was choosing when to disappear. It had to be timed perfectly, late enough in the pregnancy that the babies would be safe, early enough that Trevor wouldn't be suspicious. Dr. Patricia recommended week 37. The twins will be full term. We can schedule a C-section, control every variable. You'll go to the hospital in Riverside under a different name, have the babies safely, recover for a few days. Meanwhile, the death certificates will be filed here. And Trevor? Won't know anything until you're ready to tell him. The plan required help from more people than Simone was comfortable with. But each person they brought in had a reason to want Trevor to fall. There was James, a former business partner Trevor had cheated out of $100,000. He worked at the county records office and could ensure the death certificates were filed properly. There was Denise, a woman Trevor had promised a promotion to and then given to someone else. His mistress Brianna, actually. Denise worked for the funeral home and would handle the arrangements. There was Marcus. No, couldn't use that name. There was Gregory, who Trevor had fired for refusing to falsify company records. Gregory now worked in IT and could make sure certain security footage disappeared at crucial moments. Each person was carefully vetted. Each one signed agreements prepared by Rachel. Each one understood the stakes. This feels like assembling an army, Simone said one evening. It is, Nicole replied. An army of people Trevor hurt. And you're giving them a chance to fight back. As the date approached, Simone felt strangely calm. She'd been stressed for months, terrified of what Trevor might do, worried about her baby's future. But now, with a plan in place and people supporting her, she felt strong. She used the time to document everything in her life. She recorded video messages explaining her decision. She wrote letters to her children for when they were older. She created a timeline of Trevor's betrayal with evidence attached to every claim. And she planned what she'd say in the video that would play at her funeral. Rachel helped her write it. Nicole filmed it in Mr. Patterson's office with 3 lawyers as witnesses. It took 6 takes before Simone got through it without crying. "He's going to be there with her, isn't he?" Simone asked as they wrapped up. "Probably," Rachel said. "Men like Trevor always think they've won." "Good," Simone said. "I want him to feel safe. I want him to think he got away with everything. And then I want to watch his face when he realizes the truth." Nicole gave her a long look. "You've changed, you know. 2 months ago you were scared. Now you're—" "What?" "Dangerous," Nicole finished with a smile. Simone smiled back. "Good. That's exactly what I need to be." The week before her disappearance, Simone went through her house one last time. She couldn't take much, it would be suspicious. But she packed a small bag with photos, jewelry from her grandmother, her father's watch. She also found the ultrasound pictures of her twins. 2 little boys growing strong despite everything. She decided on names, Jordan and Isaiah. Good strong names. Names that meant something. Trevor came home late that night as usual. He barely glanced at her as he headed upstairs. "Trevor," she called. He stopped. "I just want you to know. I hope you find what you're looking for." He looked confused. "What?" "Happiness. I hope you find it." Something flickered across his face. Guilt? Regret? It was gone too fast to tell. "Thanks," he muttered and continued upstairs. Simone smiled. That was the last conversation they'd ever have as husband and wife. 3 days later, she packed her bag, left a note saying she was visiting her mother for a few days, and drove to Riverside. To the hospital where Dr. Patricia was waiting. To the place where Simone Carter would die and someone new would be born. The hospital in Riverside was small, clean, and 3 hours away from anyone who might recognize Simone. She checked in under the name Naomi Johnson, using identification documents Rachel had somehow procured through legal channels Simone didn't ask about. Dr. Patricia met her in the private wing, away from the main maternity ward. "How are you feeling?" Patricia asked, checking Simone's vital signs. "Scared," Simone admitted, "but ready. The twins look perfect. Strong heartbeats, good positioning. We'll do the C-section tomorrow morning. You'll be awake for it, able to see your boys right away." That night, Simone lay in the hospital bed, hands on her belly, feeling her sons move. Tomorrow they'd be here. In her arms. And Trevor would never know. Her phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. "How's your mom? When are you coming back?" Simone stared at the message. He hadn't asked how she was feeling. Hadn't asked about the babies. Just when she'd be back to cook his meals and maintain his perfect life. She typed, "A few more days. Mom needs me." His reply came immediately, "Okay. Don't forget we have that dinner party Saturday." The dinner party. With his colleagues and their wives. Where he'd play the devoted husband while texting Brianna under the table. Simone deleted the entire conversation and turned off her phone. The next morning they wheeled her into surgery. Dr. Patricia was there, along with 2 nurses who'd been briefed on the situation. Everything was professional, calm, careful. "Ready to meet your boys?" Patricia asked. "So ready," Simone whispered. 20 minutes later, she heard the first cry. Then the second. 2 perfect, healthy baby boys were placed on her chest, and Simone Carter fell completely in love. Jordan came first, weighing 6 pounds 2 ounces with a full head of dark hair in his mother's nose. Isaiah followed 3 minutes later, 6 pounds even, with his mother's eyes already looking around curiously. "They're perfect," Simone breathed, tears streaming down her face. "They're absolutely perfect." She spent the next hour holding them, memorizing their faces, counting their fingers and toes. These were her sons. Her reasons for everything. While Simone bonded with her babies, the second part of the plan kicked into motion. Back in their home city, James filed the death certificates at the county office. The paperwork listed Simone Carter and her twin sons as deceased due to complications during childbirth at Memorial Hospital, a facility that existed and where the records department had been very cooperative after a significant anonymous donation. Denise at the funeral home received the death certificates and began making arrangements. A closed casket funeral, 3 actually. Simone and both babies. The tragedy of a young mother and her children, gone too soon. Nicole called Trevor personally to deliver the news. Simone heard about it later from Nicole. He answered on the third ring. I told him there'd been an accident, that you'd gone into early labor and there were complications, that the doctors did everything they could. What did he say? Simone asked. Nicole's voice went hard. He said, and I quote, "This is terrible timing. I have a presentation next week." Then he asked if he needed to come to the hospital or if I could handle the arrangements. Simone felt that steel inside her grow colder. She'd known Trevor was selfish, but this confirmed he'd never cared at all. I told him the arrangements were being handled, that the funeral would be in 3 days. He said he'd be there. Did he sound sad? He sounded inconvenienced. Simone looked down at her sleeping sons. Good. Let him think it's just an inconvenience. Let him think he's free. Over the next 3 days, Simone recovered in the hospital while her funeral was planned. She fed her babies, changed their diapers, learned how to be a mother. Patricia checked on her regularly, and the nurses brought her everything she needed. Nicole visited on the second day, bringing clothes and supplies. Your mother wants to see you, Nicole said. She's holding it together in public, but privately she's worried. Tell her I'm okay. Tell her the boys are perfect. And tell her thank you for doing this. She says Trevor called her crying. Actual tears. Simone snorted. Fake ones. Probably. He also called his lawyer. I have a friend who works in that office. Apparently, Trevor wanted to know how quickly he could access your life insurance money. There it was. The truth of who Trevor really was. There is no life insurance money, Simone said. I canceled those policies 2 months ago. Nicole's eyes widened. You did. Martin helped me. Everything I had is in secure accounts now. Trevor will find out he's getting nothing. He's going to lose his mind. I'm counting on it. On the third day, Mr. Patterson visited the hospital. He brought the video Simone had recorded, now edited and ready to play. I've timed it perfectly, he said. I'll start reading the will, then announce that you left a video message. When Trevor sees your face on that screen, knowing you're alive, watching him with his mistress, it'll destroy him, Simone finished. Completely. They reviewed the plan one final time. Simone would stay in Riverside for another week, recovering and bonding with her babies. Then she'd move to a rental property Nicole had secured in a different state. She'd use her maiden name, start rebuilding her life. Meanwhile, the legal proceedings against Trevor would begin. Rachel's ready, Mr. Patterson said. The moment Trevor is arrested, she'll file the divorce papers. He'll be served in jail. Perfect. Are you sure you want to watch the funeral? Simone looked at her sleeping sons, then back at the lawyer. I've never been more sure of anything. The morning of the funeral, Simone left her babies with a trusted nurse and drove to the cemetery. She wore a black wig and dark glasses. No one would recognize her. She parked 3 rows back from the gathering crowd and watched. Watched her mother's grief. Watched her sister's anger. Watched Nicole's cold fury. And then she watched Trevor arrive with Brianna on his arm. In that moment, every doubt Simone had ever had disappeared. She was doing the right thing. For herself. For her sons. For every woman Trevor would have hurt in the future. She watched the whole funeral unfold. Watched Trevor's face go pale when the video started. Watched Brianna back away when the truth came out. Watched the police put handcuffs on the man she'd once loved. And when it was over, when Trevor was being led away and the crowd was dispersing, Simone started her car and drove back to her sons. She didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel vengeful. She felt free. From her car, Simone watched every moment through the camera Nicole had hidden in her purse. The feed streamed directly to Simone's tablet, giving her a close-up view of Trevor's face. Mr. Patterson stood at the front, the tablet with her video in his hands. The crowd had gone silent after the video started, every eye fixed on Trevor. Video Simone continued, Trevor thought he was so clever. Moving money. Planning our future apart while I carried his children. But here's what he didn't know. I'm smarter than he ever gave me credit for. Trevor's mouth opened, then closed. Simone watched him look around as if searching for her. As if she might jump out from behind a tombstone and yell, surprise. Every dollar you moved, I tracked, Video Simone said. Every account you created, I documented. Every signature you forged with my name, I have the evidence. And while you were planning to take my children and claim I was unfit, I was building a case that will put you in prison. Brianna tugged on Trevor's sleeve, whispering urgently. He shook her off, his face going from pale to red. The house you think you still own? I transferred my half to my name 3 months ago. Legal and documented. The investment accounts you've been counting on? Empty. I moved every penny I was entitled to. The car you're driving? Leased in your name only, and the payments are about to default. Trevor turned to Mr. Patterson. This is fraud. She can't just. She can, Mr. Patterson interrupted calmly. She did. Everything was done legally with proper documentation. You, on the other hand, forged her signature multiple times. That's the fraud, Mr. Carter. Simone's mother stood up. Even in her grief, real grief for the situation her daughter was in, she looked fierce. You brought your whore to my daughter's funeral. You don't get to talk about what's right. Several people in the crowd nodded agreement. Video Simone spoke again. I'm not telling you where I am. You'll never find me. But you will see me again, Trevor. In court. When I file for divorce. When I take you for every penny you have left. When I make sure you never see the children you were planning to steal from me. Trevor's hands were shaking. This is insane. She can't. Where are the bodies? I want to see them. Denise stepped forward. She was the funeral director, dressed in a conservative black suit. The family requested a closed casket service, Mr. Carter, due to the nature of the life circumstances. I don't believe this, Trevor said loudly. This is some kind of trick. Open the caskets. Mr. Patterson nodded to Denise. She moved to the first small casket, supposedly containing one of the twins. She opened it slowly. Inside was a white blanket, arranged to suggest a tiny form underneath. But no body. No baby. Just emptiness wrapped in cloth. Trevor stared. What is this? Exactly what it looks like, Mr. Patterson said. Your wife gave you one last gift, Trevor. She let you attend a funeral for a woman you wished was dead anyway. How does it feel? The video ended. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Trevor lunged toward Mr. Patterson. Where is she? Tell me where she is. Two police officers stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. They'd been waiting for exactly this moment. Trevor Carter, the first officer said, you're under arrest for forgery, fraud, and misappropriation of funds. You have the right to remain silent. Trevor started shouting. About his rights. About the unfairness. About how Simone was the real criminal. His voice carried across the cemetery, making several people wince. Brianna was backing away, phone to her ear. Simone could see her mouth moving, probably calling her own lawyer or her family. The young woman looked terrified. Good, Simone thought. She should be terrified. She helped Trevor plan to destroy me. Nicole walked up to Brianna before she could leave. You're not innocent in this either. Those emails you sent Trevor, encouraging him to leave his pregnant wife? We have all of them. And if you try to contact him or help him, we'll make sure everyone at your company knows exactly what kind of person you are. Brianna's face crumpled. She turned and ran, heels clicking on the pavement, leaving Trevor to his fate. The handcuffs clicked into place. Trevor's lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Howard, appeared from somewhere in the crowd. Don't say anything, Howard told Trevor. Not one word. But Trevor couldn't help himself. He looked directly at the camera Nicole was holding. Simone, I know you're watching. You can't hide forever. Those are my sons too. Nicole smiled at the camera. At Simone. Actually, Trevor, they're not. According to the death certificates, your sons are dead. You'll have to prove they exist before you can claim any rights to them. And that's going to be very difficult from prison. The officers led Trevor away. He was still shouting, still raging, but his voice faded as they guided him toward the squad car. Simone's mother walked over to Mr. Patterson. Thank you, she said quietly, for helping my daughter. She helped herself, Mr. Patterson replied. I just provided the legal framework. The crowd began to disperse. Some people were crying, real tears for a situation that was tragic even if Simone was alive. Others were talking in urgent whispers, phones out, probably spreading the news of Trevor's arrest. Simone's sister found Nicole. Is she really okay? And the babies? She's perfect, Nicole said softly. The boys are perfect. I'll take you to see them tomorrow. From her car, Simone watched it all. She saw her family holding each other. Saw Trevor being pushed into the police car, still yelling. Saw Brianna drive away alone. Saw the cemetery workers beginning to clean up the fake funeral. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. He fell for it completely. You should have seen his face. Simone texted back. I did. Thank you. For everything. Where are you going now? Back to my sons. Back to my new life. Simone started her car. She took one last look at the cemetery where her old life had been buried. Not her body. Not her babies. But the woman she used to be, the one who accepted lies and made excuses and let herself be small. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who'd fought back. Someone who'd won. As she drove back to Riverside to the hospital room where Jordan and Isaiah waited, Simone Carter smiled. The funeral was over. The performance had been perfect. And tomorrow the real work would begin. 3 months later, Simone sat in her new apartment in Portland, Oregon, feeding Isaiah while Jordan slept in his crib. The apartment was small but bright, with large windows that let in the afternoon sun. It was nothing like her old house, but it was hers. She'd been living under her maiden name, Simone Bradford, for 12 weeks now. The transition had been easier than she expected. New bank accounts, new identification, new life. Rachel had worked magic with the legal paperwork, ensuring everything was legitimate. The boys were growing fast. Jordan was already trying to roll over, and Isaiah had started smiling at everything. They had their mother's eyes and, thankfully, nothing visible from Trevor. Simone's laptop sat open on the coffee table, displaying her new business website. Bradford Consulting, specializing in business strategy and financial planning. She'd soft-launched it a month ago, reaching out to former colleagues from before she'd married Trevor. The response had been overwhelming. Her phone rang. Rachel's name appeared on the screen. "Tell me good news," Simone said. "Trevor's preliminary hearing is next week," Rachel replied. "The prosecutor has him on 6 counts of fraud, 3 counts of forgery, and 2 counts of attempting to defraud a financial institution. If convicted on all counts, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. Simone felt a flutter of satisfaction. "And the divorce? We're filing tomorrow. I wanted to wait until after the criminal proceedings started so he'd be too overwhelmed to mount a decent defense. He's still in jail, couldn't make bail. His assets are frozen pending the criminal investigation." "What about Brianna?" Rachel's laugh was cold. "She's been subpoenaed to testify. Apparently she's cooperating fully with prosecutors. Gave them emails, text messages, everything. She's trying to save herself." "Good. Let her learn what Trevor really is." "There's more," Rachel said. "His company fired him. Immediately. They put out a statement saying they had no knowledge of his criminal activities and are cooperating with investigations. His name has been removed from everything." Simone closed her eyes. Complete destruction. Everything Trevor had built, gone. "How do you feel about it?" Rachel asked quietly. "Like justice," Simone replied. "Like watching karma work." After hanging up, Simone checked her business email. 5 new inquiries about her consulting services. 3 from companies she'd worked with before, 2 from referrals. She'd been careful about rebuilding her professional reputation. No social media presence yet, she wasn't ready for Trevor's friends or family to know where she was. But word of mouth in her industry was powerful. Her first official client had been a small tech startup run by 3 women. They needed help structuring their finances and planning for growth. Simone had done such good work that they'd referred her to 6 other companies. Now she had 8 clients, all paying well, all respecting her expertise. She worked from home while the boys napped, sometimes late at night after they were asleep. It was exhausting but exhilarating. Nicole visited every few weeks, flying in from their old city. She'd become Aunt Nicole to the boys, bringing toys and supplies and news from home. During her latest visit, Nicole sat on Simone's couch holding Jordan while Simone made them tea. "Your mother wants to come visit," Nicole said. "She can't. Not yet. Too risky. She misses you. Misses them." Nicole looked down at Jordan. "These boys are growing up without their grandmother." "Better that than growing up in Trevor's shadow," Simone said firmly. "Once the trial is over, once he's actually convicted, then she can visit. When it's safe." Nicole nodded. "Your sister's been keeping the family updated. Everyone thinks you're healing somewhere, recovering from the trauma. No one suspects you're building a business empire." "Hardly an empire," Simone laughed. "But it's mine." That night, after Nicole left and the boys were asleep, Simone did something she'd been avoiding. She Googled Trevor's name. The search results were extensive. His arrest had made local news. His company's statement had been widely reported. There were even a few think pieces about men who commit financial crimes against their wives. One article included Trevor's mugshot. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red, face haggard. Nothing like the polished businessman who'd brought his mistress to his wife's funeral. Simone stared at the photo. This was the man she'd loved. The man she'd married. the man who'd planned to steal her children. She felt nothing. No love. No hate. Just a distant sense that justice was being served. She closed the laptop and went to check on her sons. Jordan was sprawled in his crib, one arm above his head. Isaiah was curled on his side, making small sleeping noises. These were her reasons. Her purpose. Her new life. 2 weeks later, Rachel called again. We're filing the divorce papers tomorrow. Trevor will be served in jail. What are we asking for? Everything, Rachel said with satisfaction. Full custody, which you effectively already have since he thinks they're dead. Child support from any assets he has remaining after restitution. A restraining order. And we're demanding he pay your legal fees. He'll fight it. Let him try. We have evidence of fraud, infidelity, forgery, and attempted parental kidnapping. We have recordings of him planning to fake evidence against you. No judge in the country would rule in his favor. The divorce papers were filed on a Thursday. Trevor was served on Friday morning. According to Rachel's sources, he'd ripped up the papers and screamed that his sons were dead, that Simone was dead, that this was all impossible. They had to sedate him, Rachel reported. He's claiming you faked your death, but he can't prove it without admitting he knew you were alive. It's a beautiful legal trap. Simone allowed herself a small smile. Over the next month, her business continued to grow. She hired an assistant, a young woman named Janelle who'd been laid off from a corporate job and needed a fresh start. Janelle worked remotely, handling scheduling and client communications. You're doing something amazing here, Janelle said during their weekly video call. These companies love you. Do you know how many referrals you've gotten this week? How many? 12. 12 companies want to work with Bradford Consulting. You're going to need more help. Simone looked around her small apartment. I think it's time to expand. She rented office space, just one room in a shared building, but it was professional and bright. She bought proper furniture, set up a real workspace. The boys' daycare was 2 blocks away, making it easy to visit them at lunch. 6 months after her death, Simone Bradford's consulting firm was thriving. She had 15 clients, 2 employees, and a waiting list of companies wanting her services. She'd done it. Built something from nothing. Created a life that was completely hers. And Trevor? Trevor was still in jail, awaiting trial, watching everything he'd stolen turn to dust. Simone's office had grown from one room to a full suite. Bradford Consulting now occupied the entire 3rd floor of a modern building in downtown Portland. She employed 8 people, all women, all with stories of overcoming something. Janelle had been promoted to office manager. Her organizational skills had proven invaluable as the company expanded. There was Monica, a financial analyst who'd left an abusive marriage with nothing and was now building her career back. There was Kenji. Wait, couldn't use that. There was Jennifer, a marketing specialist who'd been discriminated against at her last job and was thriving in an environment that valued her. Each employee had been chosen not just for skills but for character. Simone built a company culture around empowerment, fairness, and excellence. The boys were 8 months old now, happy and healthy in their daycare downstairs. Simone visited them twice a day, and they spent every evening together in the house she'd recently bought. A small but beautiful craftsman home with a yard where Jordan and Isaiah could eventually play. Business was booming. Bradford Consulting specialized in helping small to medium businesses structure their finances, plan for growth, and avoid the kind of financial pitfalls Simone had learned about the hard way. Her reputation had spread beyond Portland. She'd been featured in 2 business magazines, written articles for financial websites, and been invited to speak at conferences. She did it all under her maiden name, and nobody connected her to the dead Simone Carter. Rachel called regularly with updates on Trevor's case. The trial starts in 2 weeks, Rachel said during their latest call. Prosecution has a mountain of evidence. His lawyer is trying to negotiate a plea deal. What kind of deal? Plead guilty to fraud and forgery, get 10 years instead of 20. He's considering it. And the divorce? Moving forward regardless. Since he can't prove you're dead because you're not, and can't prove the boys are alive because he thinks they're dead, he has no grounds to fight custody. The judge is ready to grant you everything you asked for. Simone felt a surge of triumph. When? Next month. Final hearing is scheduled. You don't even have to appear in person. We can do it via video conference from Portland. He still doesn't know where I am? No idea. And by the time he figures it out, you'll have full legal custody and a restraining order. He won't be able to touch you. That evening, Simone hosted a small dinner party at her new house. Nicole had flown in for the weekend, along with Simone's mother and sister who'd finally been cleared to visit now that Trevor was securely in custody. Simone's mother held Jordan while her sister played with Isaiah on the living room floor. "Look at this place," her mother said, gazing around the tastefully decorated home. "Look at what you've built." "I had help," Simone said, gesturing to Nicole. "You had determination," Nicole corrected. "I just provided support." Simone's sister looked up from making Isaiah giggle. "Have you thought about what happens when Trevor gets out of prison? Even with 10 years, he could be out in 5 with good behavior." "I've thought about it," Simone said calmly. "By then the boys will be school-aged. We'll have years of established routine. I'll have years of documented sole custody. And he'll be a convicted felon with no money and no reputation. What judge would give him access? He could still try to find you." "Let him try," Simone said. "I'm not hiding anymore. I'm Simone Bradford, successful business owner. I'm rebuilding my life legally and openly. He has no power over me." Her mother smiled. "You've grown so strong." "I had to," Simone replied softly. "For them." She looked at her sons, her reasons for everything. The business continued to expand. Simone hired a business coach who helped her think bigger. Why just Portland? Why not the whole Pacific Northwest? Why not go national? Within a year of starting Bradford Consulting, Simone had offices in 3 cities and 22 employees. Her company specialized in helping women-owned businesses succeed, and the demand was enormous. She'd also started a side project, a nonprofit that helped women leaving bad relationships rebuild their professional lives. It offered free financial counseling, resume help, and connections to companies willing to hire women starting over. The nonprofit was funded by a percentage of Bradford Consulting's profits and by donations from clients who believed in the mission. Simone named it Second Chances Foundation, because everyone deserved a second chance at life. Trevor's trial concluded with a guilty verdict on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison with parole eligibility after 10. Brianna had testified against him, crying on the stand about how he'd manipulated her. The judge had been unmoved by Trevor's tears and excuses. The divorce was finalized a month later. Simone attended via video conference, her face calm and professional. Trevor, appearing via video from prison, looked like he'd aged 10 years. His lawyer tried to argue about custody, about the boys Trevor believed were dead. The judge cut him off. "Mr. Carter, you attended what you believed was your children's funeral. You brought your mistress. You showed no grief. Even if those children were alive, which according to legal records they are not, I would never grant you custody after such behavior. This divorce is granted with full custody to Mrs. Carter, child support payments from your remaining assets, and a permanent restraining order." Trevor's face on the screen went red. "This is insane. Those boys are deceased according to all legal documentation," the judge interrupted. "Unless you can prove otherwise, which would require you to admit to attempted fraud. I suggest you accept this ruling and serve your sentence." The screen went black. Trevor was gone. Simone sat in her Portland office, surrounded by her team, and felt the last chain break free. She was divorced. She had full custody. She had a restraining order. And Trevor was in prison for a decade. It was over. Janelle brought in champagne. "We're celebrating, right?" Simone looked around at the women who'd become her team, her friends, her support system. "Yes, we're celebrating." They raised their glasses. To freedom. To new beginnings. To women who refused to stay down. That night, Simone held her sleeping sons and whispered to them, "Your daddy made mistakes. Bad ones. But they led us here, to this life, to this future. And I won't let his mistakes define us. We're going to be happy. We're going to be strong. And we're going to build something amazing." Jordan shifted in his sleep. Isaiah made a small sound. Simone kissed their foreheads and smiled. This was her empire. Not built on money or revenge, but on hard work, integrity, and the determination to never let anyone make her small again. 2 years after the divorce, Simone received a letter from Trevor's attorney. He was filing for custody rights. Rachel called immediately. "He's claiming the boys are alive and that you faked their deaths. He's demanding DNA tests and visitation rights." Simone felt ice in her veins. Can he do that? He can try. But here's the problem for him. If he proves the boys are alive, he's admitting he knew you faked your death. That opens him up to accusations of being complicit. It's a legal nightmare for him. What if he doesn't care? Then we bury him with evidence, Rachel said grimly. I've been preparing for this. Every email, every recording, every document showing he planned to steal those children. We'll show that he attended their funeral with his mistress. We'll prove he's an unfit father. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 months later. Simone spent those months documenting everything. Her business success, her stable home, her excellent childcare arrangements, character references from teachers, neighbors, clients. She had Jordan and Isaiah evaluated by child psychologists who confirmed they were happy, healthy, well-adjusted children with a strong bond to their mother. She gathered financial records showing she'd never taken a penny that wasn't legally hers, that every transfer had been documented and justified. And she prepared herself emotionally for seeing Trevor again. The day of the hearing arrived. Simone wore a navy suit, her hair pulled back professionally. She looked every inch the successful businesswoman she'd become. Trevor was brought from prison in handcuffs, wearing an orange jumpsuit. He'd lost weight, his face gaunt and aged. When he saw Simone, his eyes went wide. "You," he breathed. "You're really alive." "Disappointed?" Simone asked coolly. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Anderson, called for order. Trevor's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, my client has been denied access to his children based on fraudulent death certificates. We're asking for DNA tests to prove paternity and immediate visitation rights." Rachel stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Carter attended what he believed was his children's funeral with his mistress. He showed no grief. He immediately tried to access life insurance money. He has no moral or legal standing to request custody." Judge Anderson looked at Trevor. "Mr. Carter, did you or did you not attend a funeral for your wife and children?" Yes, but I didn't know they were alive. She tricked me." "So you believed they were dead, attended their funeral with your mistress, and felt no grief?" Trevor's mouth opened and closed. "And you're now claiming you deserve custody of children you thought were dead and made no effort to mourn?" "I want my sons," Trevor shouted. "Your sons," Judge Anderson said coldly, "have been raised by their mother for 3 years. They don't know you. And based on your criminal record and behavior, I'm not inclined to change that." Rachel presented evidence. Hours of it. Emails where Trevor plotted to take the children. Recordings of him planning to fake evidence against Simone. Financial records of his fraud. Testimony from Brianna about his manipulation. And then the final blow. Video footage from the funeral showing Trevor with Brianna, showing his lack of grief, showing his anger when the truth was revealed. The courtroom went silent as they watched Trevor being arrested, still yelling, still showing no concern for the children he supposedly loved. When it ended, Judge Anderson removed her glasses and looked at Trevor for a long moment. "Mr. Carter, in my 30 years on the bench, I have never seen such a clear case of unfitness for custody. You committed fraud against your wife. You planned to steal her children. You showed them such little regard that you attended their funeral with your mistress. Even if DNA proves you are their biological father, which I suspect it will, I would never grant you custody or even supervised visitation." Trevor's face went red. "You can't do that. They're my sons." "They are children who deserve better than you," Judge Anderson replied. "Much better. Custody remains with Mrs. Bradford. No visitation. Mr. Carter, you are ordered to pay child support in the amount determined by the state, to be garnished from any future earnings. You are also ordered to cover all legal fees for this proceeding. And if you ever attempt to contact Mrs. Bradford or her children again, you will face additional criminal charges." The gavel came down. It was over. Trevor was led away, still shouting, still raging. His lawyer looked exhausted and defeated. Simone sat perfectly still, letting the victory wash over her. Rachel put a hand on her shoulder. "You won. Completely." "I know," Simone whispered. "I know." Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Trevor's case had made news, a cautionary tale about financial fraud and family betrayal. Simone gave one statement. "I'm grateful for the justice system that protected my children and me. Now I'm going home to focus on what matters, building a good life for my sons." Short, professional, final. She flew back to Portland that evening. Her mother was watching Jordan and Isaiah, and when Simone walked through her door, both boys ran to her yelling, "Mommy." 3 years old now. Smart, funny, loving. They knew nothing about Trevor, about prison, about betrayal. They knew only their mother's love and the safe, stable home she'd built. "How did it go?" her mother asked. "We won," Simone said, lifting both boys into her arms. "It's really over now." That night, after the boys were asleep, Simone sat on her back porch with a glass of wine and looked at the stars. She'd won every battle. The financial fight, the divorce, the custody case. Trevor had nothing left to throw at her. But victory felt quieter than she'd expected. Not triumphant or vengeful. Just peaceful. She'd started this journey scared and betrayed. She was ending it strong and free. And that, Simone realized, was the best revenge of all. 5 years after her death, Simone Bradford stood at the window of her corner office on the 15th floor of a building she owned. Bradford Consulting had grown into a national firm with offices in 12 cities and over 100 employees. Below, the city of Portland hummed with life. Her city. Her home. Her fresh start. Jordan and Isaiah were in kindergarten now, thriving in a progressive school that emphasized creativity and critical thinking. They were happy children who loved dinosaurs, painting, and their mother's bedtime stories. They had friends, hobbies, and a grandmother who spoiled them every weekend. They asked about their father sometimes. Simone told them the truth, age-appropriate version. Your father made bad choices and isn't part of our lives. But you have me and Grandma and Aunt Nicole and so many people who love you. It was enough. For now. Simone's business had expanded beyond consulting. She'd written a book, Rising from Ashes, a guide to rebuilding after betrayal, that had become a bestseller. She gave keynote speeches at conferences about financial independence and personal empowerment. Second Chances Foundation had helped over 500 women rebuild their lives. The nonprofit now had full-time staff and funding from major donors who believed in the mission. And Simone herself? She'd become someone she barely recognized from 5 years ago. Strong. Confident. Successful beyond her wildest dreams. There'd been men interested in her over the years. Nice men who asked her to dinner, sent flowers, wanted to get to know her. She'd gone on a few dates but nothing serious. The boys came first. Her business came first. Romance could wait. Besides, she was happy. Genuinely happy. And that was something she'd never been with Trevor. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. Lunch today? I'm in town. Simone smiled. Absolutely. Bring champagne. They met at Simone's favorite restaurant, a small place with excellent food and outdoor seating. Nicole arrived with a bottle of expensive champagne and a huge grin. What are we celebrating? Simone asked. This. Nicole pulled out a magazine. Businesswoman Monthly. Simone's face was on the cover. The headline read, Simone Bradford, Building an Empire from Nothing. Simone stared at her own image. Professional, confident, smiling. Nothing like the scared woman who'd planned her own funeral 5 years ago. You did it, Nicole said softly. You really did it. We did it, Simone corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. They toasted. To friendship. To survival. To the life Simone had built from the ashes of betrayal. Have you heard anything about Trevor? Nicole asked carefully. Not in 2 years. Last I heard he was still in prison. Gets out in 3 more years. Worried? Simone considered. No. By the time he's released, I'll be even more established. The boys will be older. We'll have years of documented stability. He's nothing to me now. And it was true. Trevor Carter was a chapter in her past. A cautionary tale she sometimes shared in speeches about financial abuse. But he held no power over her anymore. After lunch, Simone went to pick up the boys from school. They ran to her, backpacks bouncing, talking over each other about their day. Mommy, I made a painting. Mommy, we learned about space. She drove them home, listening to their chatter, feeling grateful for these normal, beautiful moments. That evening, she hosted a company celebration at her house. Her employees, her friends, her chosen family gathered in her backyard. There was food, music, laughter. The boys ran around with other children, happy and free. Janelle raised a glass. To Simone, who gave all of us a second chance. Everyone cheered. Simone looked around at the life she'd created. Not perfect, but honest, built on her own terms. Filled with people who valued her for who she was, not what she could provide. Monica approached her, champagne in hand. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret it? The whole plan? Faking your death? Simone thought about it. No. It was extreme, yes. But it was necessary. Trevor would have fought me in court for years. He would have made my life miserable. He might have succeeded in taking the boys at least part-time. This way I got a clean break. A fresh start. And look what came from it. She gestured at the party, at her home, at her sons playing in the yard. I built this. Me. Not Trevor's wife. Not someone's victim. Me. Monica smiled. You're inspiring, you know that? I'm just someone who refused to stay down. Later, after everyone left and the boys were asleep, Simone sat in her home office looking at the magazine cover. The woman in that photo had fought for everything she had. Had planned, strategized, and executed a risky plan. Had risen from literal death to build an empire. She was proud of that woman. Her phone rang. An unknown number. Simone almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Simone Carter? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Simone Bradford. Right. Sorry. I'm calling from the Oregon Department of Corrections. This is just a courtesy call to inform you that Trevor Carter has waived his parole hearing. He'll serve his full sentence. Simone felt something relax in her chest. Thank you for letting me know. He also wanted me to tell you, the man paused. He said to tell you he's sorry? For everything. Simone was quiet for a moment. Thank you. But I don't need his apology. She hung up and deleted the number. Trevor's sorry didn't matter. His regret didn't matter. He'd made his choices. She'd made hers. And her choices had led her here, to this beautiful life, these perfect sons, this empire she'd built from nothing. Simone walked to the boys' room and watched them sleep. Jordan had kicked off his blanket. Isaiah clutched his stuffed dinosaur. They were perfect, and they were hers. She pulled up their blankets, kissed their foreheads, and whispered the same thing she'd been telling them since they were born. You are loved. You are safe. And you can be anything you want to be. Because that was the truth. Not the fairy tale Trevor had sold her about perfect marriages and happy families. But the real truth, that strength comes from within, that happiness is built not given, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Simone Bradford had lived well. And she was just getting started.